Oh shoot. Okay, so all right, now we're moving on to quite honestly my favorite segment of the show, motivation for morons.
Motivation for morons.
Oh man, I'll never get tired of that. Anyways, this week the motivation comes from Brazilian author Paulo Coelho. Yeah, I think I'm saying that right. Paulo Coelho. Anyways, the guy wrote a book in the 80s called The Alchemist. Maybe you heard of it, maybe not. But apparently every celebrity has indeed heard of it and recommended it to their celebrity friends. It's like their own personal little book club, you know? So in any case, The Alchemist is a very well-known book by this point. But if you don't know the story yet, then just let me summarize it for you. But by the way, I will be spoiling the end of the book. Yeah, so if you don't like spoilers, you should skip to this timestamp if you're watching the podcast after it went live. But if you're listening to it live, then just like cover your ears, I guess. So let's see. So it starts off with this boy named Santiago. He had this reoccurring dream, and so he consulted a gypsy who told him that a treasure awaited him in the pyramids of Giza in Egypt. He lives in Spain, by the way, so the pyramids are not like an entire continent away or anything, like they're here. So anyways, the kid doesn't end up believing the gypsy, but then this old man showed up and was like, look, I can do magic. And also the gypsy was right. You have to travel to the pyramids because it's your personal legend, which is like essentially his destiny, right? So he goes on this epic journey where he gets robbed and he has to work with this merchant, and then he travels through the desert and meets an Englishman who tells him all about alchemy, right? And then the kid falls in love with a girl in an oasis town, but then he meets the alchemist, as in the one from the book title, and so he has to continue his journey, and so he leaves the girl behind, which I actually kind of found very sad. But don't worry though. At the very end, it's like hinted that he comes back for her, so it's all good. We all get our fairy tale ending. But the boy leaves the girl, and then he follows the alchemist through the final leg of his journey to the pyramids. But then they get stopped by this clan of desert people, and the boy is forced to use everything he's learned throughout his entire journey in order to turn himself into like the wind, like literally the wind. Which, like, I gotta say, it was probably one of the most enthralling passages I've ever read in like any book. It was very beautifully written, so props to the author for making the book's climax be so impactful. But then after he turns into the wind, the boy finally reaches the pyramids with the alchemist, but then the alchemist leaves him, so he's on his own by the end. And so he actually gets beat up by these people. And the people who beat him up mentioned something about a tree back in Spain where the boy was from. And the boy actually remembered the tree. So as it turned out, the treasure had been right beneath him, like the whole time he had been back home. But it was through his journey that he obtained a much more valuable treasure than any chest of Spanish coins could amount to. And I find this to be a very fitting conclusion to this book. But not only that, it's actually one of the first pieces of motivational thoughts that I want you to take into consideration. The fact that sometimes it's the journey, right? And the experience we get from this journey that matter much more than the end goal. Take the boy as an example, right? He could have found his treasure at the very start of the book, but he would not be a better individual had he not embarked on his quest. So remember, folks, that if you want to achieve something, it's about the hard work. If you feel like something you really want to achieve is super duper duper hard, then don't get discouraged. That just means you're putting in the effort. Keep that positive mentality, and like the boy, you too will find your treasure. And speaking of the boy, it actually connects, this quote, like this kind of mentality connects to a part of the story near the end where the boy says, actually I have the quote right here, let me just pull it up. Oh, there it is, okay. "This is why alchemy exists," the boy said, "so that everyone will search for his treasure, find it, and then want to be better than he was in his former life. Lead will play a role until the world has no further need for lead, and then lead will have to turn itself into gold." Now, aside from being honestly a very touching moment in the story, it's also filled with all kinds of important messages. Remember that finding his treasure was the boy's personal legend, like his destiny, right? But finding his treasure was also a means for the boy to become a better person. Therefore, it was his destiny to become a better person. All he had to do was put in the effort. Sure, he got discouraged, but by keeping the mentality that this one thing was what he was meant to do in life, he kept his head in the game and followed through. Folks, it's all in your mentality. You have to believe it to achieve it. So when you feel passionate about something, You have to do it. It's your obligation, your destiny, because once you follow through, you will be better than before and thankful for having put in the time and effort. If you think I'm just like overanalyzing the book or that I'm pulling these things out of my ass, then just listen to this, alright? A couple of years ago, the author went on the Oprah Winfrey Show to talk about The Alchemist, right? His book. And at a certain point, he explained what a personal legend was. I have the clip right here, so I'm just going to let you folks listen to it and see for yourselves. Alright, so let me see. Here we go. Okay.
What is the personal legend?
It is the reason that you are here. It is simple as this, you know. Mm-hmm. You are here to honor something called the miracle of life. You can be here to fulfill your hours and days with something that it is meaningless.
Yeah.
But you know that you have a reason to be here. Yeah. It is the only thing that gives you enthusiasm.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And you know when you are betraying your personal legend, when you are doing something without enthusiasm.
Alrighty. And so, according to the author, you were betraying your personal legend, which is your literal purpose in this earth, when you are living a life without enthusiasm. Now, what makes us enthusiastic? If your answer was either passions or chicken burritos, then ding ding, you were correct. So put that in your head, folks. When you don't follow your passions, you are betraying your purpose in life and prohibiting yourself from becoming a better person. If you ever feel like your passions are too hard to pursue, or that you just don't have the time to follow them, then remember that what you're actually doing is not fulfilling your purpose in life. Like, what else should we as individuals be doing besides fulfilling our life purpose? Now, if your answer to this question was to watch the latest episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, then I'm sorry, my friend, but you're incorrect. So follow your passions. And if you don't know what you're passionate about, then just examine your life and think about what makes you emotional, what makes you enthusiastic, what fills your life with ups and downs, what makes a journey out of your day. Because when life becomes a hard path to navigate, filled with ups and downs, but a clear end goal, then you know you're on the right track. Like, take me for example. After I read the book, I thought, what do I like to spend a lot of time doing that is making me a better person, but is also really challenging? And after careful consideration, over the span of like several days actually, I realized that exercise was my one thing and sticking to a healthy lifestyle. So I've spent the past couple weeks doing grueling work, and I'm happy to announce that despite still not being done with like this personal legend of mine, as like the author would call it, I've actually lost 15 pounds and cut out a lot of processed sugars and some cholesterols from my diet. I've started reading up on nutrition too, which, funnily enough, leads me to today's sponsor, Guy Chuck's self-help guide on living a healthier lifestyle. Now, I support this book and this author.